There is a dangerous illusion that the world owes you something, that one day the right door will simply open, and success will stroll in. But life doesn't operate that way. Opportunity does not knock on the doors of those who are waiting. It is built by those who hammer the wood, construct the hinges, and carve out the handle. The difference between the forgotten and the celebrated is initiative. Waiting has become a modern form of procrastination. Sugar, coated with phrases like waiting on the right moment, or just being patient. But patience without motion is still stagnation. You weren't born to sit and observe the parade of achievers. You were born to lead one. The people who shape history, the ones whose names echo in rooms of legacy, never waited for opportunity to favor them. They stepped into the unknown and created platforms with bare hands and unwavering resolve. You don't need permission to start. You need purpose to move. When you begin to understand that nothing changes until you change something, then you finally own the power you've always had. Every successful story didn't begin with an opportunity. It began with a decision to act. Every great invention, every business empire, every revolutionary movement began with someone who decided not to consume the narrative, but to write it. There's a difference between existing in the world and influencing it. Creators influence it. Consumers live in the comfort of routines, but creators confront chaos to extract value. It takes vision to see what does not exist and discipline to bring it into reality. Those who wait for opportunity remain consumers of other people's dreams. But the ones who create opportunity become authors of destiny. Life becomes abundant only when you start producing what others need instead of chasing what others have. When you rise each morning and ask not what the world will give you, but what you will build for the world, you transition from powerless to powerful. The marketplace doesn't pay the loudest voice. It pays the most effective creator. And creation begins when you stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I make?" Your background is not your boundary unless you allow it to be. Circumstances might explain your starting point, but they do not justify your stagnation. Too many hide behind their limitations while envying those who overcame theirs. Opportunity is not found. It is made through consistent decision making, especially when the odds scream, "Not you." The soil may be rocky, the climate harsh, but the seed that dares to grow anyway becomes a tree that commands its own sky. Greatness is not inherited. It is constructed, and every brick is a decision. A decision to rise early, to study harder, to speak up, to lead when silence is easier, to keep building when everyone else stopped. Every champion of influence was once a beginner who chose to no longer be defined by excuses. When the vision is louder than the voice of defeat, creation becomes inevitable. That's how you create opportunity, not by waiting for someone to see your potential, but by becoming undeniable through your decisions. Too many people run from resistance, unaware that resistance is where strength is built. Obstacles are not walls to block you. They are tools to sculpt you. They expose your hunger, your creativity, your discipline. Waiting for a perfect moment is a myth. The raw materials for greatness are hidden inside life's toughest problems. What people call setbacks are often setups for revelation, transformation, and innovation. History is filled with individuals who turned rejection into invention. If there is no opportunity where you stand, dig, drill, innovate. Build a platform with the very stones others throw at you. Stop interpreting adversity as the absence of destiny. Instead, see it as the hammer that forges the steel within you. The world is not looking for the comfortable. They are looking for the courageous. And courage is birthed in the workshop of adversity. Create opportunity not in spite of your obstacles, but through them. Having a dream is not enough. Inspiration must lead to perspiration, or it will die in fantasy. Vision is the blueprint, but action is the construction. Too many people are intoxicated by ideas yet remain paralyzed by fear. They talk more than they build, plan more than they execute. But time honors the builders, not the dreamers who never begin. The world doesn't move for intention, it moves for execution. And real execution doesn't wait for perfect timing. It thrives in imperfect conditions. If you have one step, take it. Don't wait to be ready. Start with what you have. Your current limitations are not your destiny. They are your training ground. Progress demands motion. There will be mistakes, yes. There will be delays, criticisms, and even failures. But none of those can destroy a man or woman who is committed to daily creation. Consistency is greater than charisma. Discipline outweighs desire. Move in faith, and you'll find that opportunity often comes dressed as hard work and disguised as inconvenience. But when you act, opportunity reveals itself, not as a miracle, but as a reward. There's a common misconception that life is a waiting game. That success is something handed out like tickets in a line. And if you're patient enough, your number will eventually be called. But the brutal reality is that life does not reward the passive. It does not honor those who sit still and wait for ideal conditions. Life rewards those who move, those who push, those who create motion when everything around them feels still. Waiting for the perfect moment is often just a sophisticated excuse for fear. You will never be fully ready. The stars will never align perfectly. The opportunities most people dream of do not exist in a neat row waiting to be discovered. They are crafted through courage, forged through movement, and born from decisions that were never guaranteed to work. Too many people spend their lives preparing but never producing. They attend seminars, gather information, write down goals, make lists, draft plans, but take no action. Preparation is only power when it's followed by execution. A vision locked inside your mind has no value until your hands give it life. It's not enough to dream. Everyone dreams. The world is full of dreamers, but few wake up and do something about it. It's action that turns invisible ideas into tangible results. Action is the separator between those who watch life and those who live it. The people who shift their lives from ordinary to extraordinary are those who decide that waiting is no longer an option. They don't need to be pushed because they have discovered something more powerful than motivation. They have purpose. Purpose becomes the internal engine that drives them forward when inspiration fades. Motivation may start the process, but it is discipline, consistency, and resilience that carry it across the finish line. Passive individuals wait for life to become easy before they move. Proactive individuals move even when life is hard, uncertain, or unclear. They understand that waiting too long turns possibility into regret. You weren't designed to be a spectator in your own story. You were meant to be the author, the builder, the visionary. Every day you wait for something to happen is another day you could be creating what you're hoping to find. Time does not slow down for hesitation. While you hesitate, someone else is taking the leap, failing forward, learning through experience and gaining ground. Opportunities are rarely given, they're almost always seized. They're uncovered through movement, not magic. You'll never know what's possible until you begin. The beginning is often the hardest part, not because of physical difficulty, but because of mental resistance. Doubt, fear, uncertainty. These mental battles keep people anchored to the dock, while others have already set sail. People who choose proactivity over passivity know that the road will be rough, that rejection is inevitable, that failure is part of the path. But they also know that nothing grows in the safety zone. The comfort zone is where dreams go to die, where creativity is buried, and where talent is wasted. It is in discomfort where strength is built. Progress does not live next door to safety. It lives in the neighborhood of risk, uncertainty, and effort. The passive pray for change. The proactive become the change. They don't wait for the phone to ring, for the door to open, or for someone to discover them. They knock, they call, they show up. They build their own door when none is in sight. Even in moments where there seems to be no path forward, proactive individuals do not collapse under the pressure of impossibility. They pivot, they adapt, they innovate. They find a way where there seems to be none because they understand that power is never granted, it is claimed. Every person who rose from nothing to something had a moment where waiting would have been easier. But they chose the harder route because they knew that destiny only reveals itself to those who move toward it. Waiting does not produce legacy, movement does. Waiting does not produce influence, action does. Every time you delay your potential because the conditions don't feel right, you're giving fear a louder voice. But the truth is, fear will never go away. You just get stronger than it. You build the muscle of courage by using it, not by thinking about it. The more you act despite fear, the more power you take back from the fear itself. That's the essence of proactivity. It's not that fear doesn't exist. It's that fear doesn't dictate decisions. Proactive people acknowledge the risk, feel the fear, and do it anyway. They walk into rooms they don't feel ready for and grow as they go. They sign up for the task before they feel qualified and become qualified through the experience itself. It's also important to understand that opportunity doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it shows up disguised as hard work, late nights, small beginnings, or unnoticed effort. Passive people miss these opportunities because they're waiting for the spotlight. Proactive people take the dimly lit stage and create their own light. They begin in the background, show up every day, deliver without applause, and build momentum through perseverance. The world doesn't ignore that kind of persistence forever. Eventually, consistent motion becomes undeniable, and the results speak louder than any introduction ever could. Your story will not be shaped by what you hoped for. It will be shaped by what you did with what you had. If you only move when it feels good, when the path is clear, when the support is strong, you'll always be behind. Progress begins when you decide to move despite the fog. It's in the action that clarity arrives. Action births momentum, and momentum breeds opportunity. There is a divine principle at work. Those who take bold steps are often met with unexpected doors. But the doors never reveal themselves until you begin walking. The view changes with every step, not with every thought. In every generation, the divide between creators and consumers silently shapes the direction of society. Consumers wait for things to happen, they look for what's next. Chase what's trending, follow what's popular. Creators, on the other hand, are the force behind what's next. They are the ones who set the trends, establish the standard, and influence the course. The reason the world responds more to creators than consumers is because value flows from those who build, not from those who merely absorb. You were not born just to participate in someone else's idea. You were created to contribute, to innovate, to develop what has never been done before. The problem is that most people spend the majority of their lives consuming entertainment, consuming distractions, consuming other people's opinions, consuming without ever creating anything that others can consume in return. Society is designed to reward the creative mind, the bold thinker, the one who has the courage to act on what they imagine. People who wait for instructions will always work for those who issue them. The mind that generates ideas will always be more valuable than the hands that simply follow directions. If you want to live a life of influence, you cannot afford to stay stuck in consumption mode. Creation is the path to significance. It is the process of taking what's inside you and giving it shape, giving it form, turning it into something that serves a purpose beyond yourself. What makes creators different is not that they have better ideas, it's that they do something with the ones they already have. Every person alive has ideas. Every person has thoughts that pass through their mind daily, but very few actually extract those thoughts and convert them into something usable, impactful, and lasting. Creativity is not limited to the artistic world. It is the power to solve problems, initiate movements, birth solutions, and change perspectives. Creators are those who see gaps and decide to fill them, who see needs and dare to meet them. They are not waiting for someone to give them permission to build. They are building anyway. They take their limited resources and create unmatched results because their power doesn't come from abundance. It comes from clarity. Clarity of purpose, clarity of intent, clarity of direction. The truth is, the world is starving for new ideas, new answers, new systems. But those answers won't come from those who wait for others to act. They will come from those who decide to become the answer themselves. A consumer-based mindset is always looking for what's missing. It complains, criticizes, compares, and consumes more in hopes of being filled. But no amount of consumption can fulfill a soul that was created to create. Fulfillment doesn't come from taking in more. It comes from giving out what's inside you. It comes from producing something that impacts another life, something that carries your fingerprint. That's why consumers often feel frustrated, stuck, or lost. They've been trained to expect life to hand them satisfaction, when true satisfaction only comes through contribution. It's not about how much you gather, it's about what you generate. You were not born to be a byproduct of someone else's system. You were born to establish your own. Every powerful figure in history left a mark not because they consumed everything, but because they contributed something. Whether it was a book, a business, an invention, a speech, or a movement. They used what they had to create what the world didn't yet have. That same ability exists in you, but it cannot be unlocked through passive consumption. It must be activated through courage and creativity. It's not about having all the answers, it's about asking the right questions and doing something with the answer you already have. Waiting for everything to make sense before you move is the fastest way to remain average. Creators move with what they know and learn more as they go. That's how innovation is born, not through certainty, but through faith in action. Being a creator requires embracing responsibility. It means you take ownership of the impact you want to make. It means you refuse to be a victim of circumstances and choose instead to shape circumstances with the power of your decisions. It means you stop blaming systems, leaders, parents, or past failures and start realizing that the life you want to live can be crafted through the work of your own hands. The tools might not be perfect, the timing might not be ideal, but creators don't wait for ideal. They create regardless. They understand that the process of building is messy, but necessary. They don't allow perfectionism to become the enemy of progress. They move, they make. They mold the invisible into the visible. You were not meant to blend in with the noise of the crowd. You were meant to rise and offer a sound that changes the tone of the entire room. You carry within you solutions that someone else is praying for. But those solutions will never be discovered if you remain in the posture of consumption. Every gift you have, every idea you've been sitting on, every passion you've been suppressing, it all means nothing until it's activated. The world doesn't respond to your potential. It responds to your production. What have you built? What have you offered? What legacy have you begun creating? These are the questions that distinguish the impactful from the invisible. You don't have to wait until you're the best to start creating. Start where you are. Create with what you have. Greatness is refined through repetition, not born in isolation. Every great innovator, artist, builder, leader started by creating poorly before they created powerfully. But they kept going, they kept improving, they kept showing up. And over time, their consistency became excellence. The only way to master the process is to stay committed to creating, no matter the outcome. You must be willing to look foolish before you look phenomenal. If you're not willing to be seen starting small, you'll never be seen at all. Being a creator isn't about fame or applause. It's about knowing that what you produce carries your essence, your convictions, your soul. It's about legacy. It's about becoming someone who not only changes your own life, but contributes to changing others. Whether it's a business, a brand, a community, a message, or a movement creation, is the evidence that you existed for more than survival. Creation is proof that you lived on purpose. The world will always have more consumers than creators. That's what makes creators so valuable. They're rare, they're necessary, and they're unforgettable. One of the most deceptive lies that people accept is that they are prisoners of their circumstances. They believe their environment, their background, their lack of resources, or their painful past has sealed their fate. This is the mindset that keeps people stagnant, locked in cycles of frustration, repeating the same patterns, blaming everything around them while changing nothing within. But history is filled with individuals who defied the script written for them, who refused to let their upbringing, location, race, financial limitations, or emotional scars define the limits of their lives. The defining factor was not their circumstances. It was the decisions they made in response to those circumstances. The truth is, everyone is dealt a different hand. Life does not distribute its cards evenly. Some are born into wealth, others into poverty. Some have access to education, while others have to fight for the smallest opportunity. But the playing field becomes equal the moment choice enters the equation. What you choose to do with what you have determines the direction of your life. Your decisions carry more weight than your disadvantages. The choice to rise, to grow, to break the mold, to learn, to persevere, to take action. That is what builds destiny. You cannot always control what happens around you, but you always control how you respond. And that response, over time, becomes the architect of your life. It's easier to blame the system, your family, your boss, or your government. It's harder to look in the mirror and confront the truth that the greatest power you have is not in your surroundings but in your choices. Excuses feel good temporarily because they remove the burden of responsibility, but they also remove the power to change. As long as you give your power away to circumstances, you give permission to your environment to dictate your future. You were not born to be shaped by life. You were born to shape it. The fire inside of you is greater than the pressure outside of you, but you have to activate it through decision. No successful life was built on favorable conditions alone. The lives that inspire, that shift history, that shake the world, they were often formed in adversity. Challenges produce clarity. Pain exposes potential. Struggle births strength. But none of that happens automatically. People who allow hardship to define them become victims. People who decide to use hardship as fuel become leaders. They don't let failure write their story. They pick up the pen and keep writing. Every great comeback is built on a decision not to quit. Every breakthrough is born from a decision to keep going when everything screams stop. The power of a single choice can change the trajectory of an entire life. Circumstances might explain your starting point, but they don't justify staying stuck. You can't control being born into dysfunction, but you can decide whether or not you will pass that dysfunction on. You can't control being hurt, abandoned, or overlooked, but you can decide whether that pain becomes a prison or a platform. Some people let their trauma turn them into victims. Others let their trauma turn them into healers, builders, warriors. The decision is always yours. What you decide to believe about yourself matters more than what anyone has said about you. What you decide to pursue with relentless focus matters more than any setback you've faced. You cannot change your past, but you can change the meaning you assign to it, and that meaning shapes your future. Every decision you make either builds your future or buries it. Every day, you are presented with choices that seem small, but carry massive consequences over time. The decision to wake up early or sleep in, to read a book or scroll aimlessly, to invest in growth or settle in comfort, to forgive or hold bitterness, to try again or walk away. These decisions shape your character, and your character shapes your destiny. Your life is not an accident. It is a reflection of the cumulative decisions you've made, both consciously and unconsciously. If you don't like what you see in your life, don't look outside of you. Look within. Look at the decisions you've made and start making different ones. Because change doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with a decision. It's easy to romanticize the idea of opportunity as something that suddenly arrives and changes everything. But opportunity often shows up as a decision. The decision to take the risk. The decision to prepare even when no one is watching. The decision to show up when you don't feel like it. The decision to separate from environments that keep you small. The decision to speak life over yourself when everyone else doubts you. That's where transformation begins. Waiting for external changes while refusing to make internal decisions is a guaranteed path to mediocrity. Growth demands that you decide differently, act intentionally, and persist unreasonably. There will always be voices that remind you of what you lack. There will always be conditions that don't favor you. There will always be challenges that try to convince you that you can't. But when you decide that you will, in spite of all that, you awaken something powerful inside of you. You begin to align with purpose. You begin to walk in strength that defies explanation. Decision turns potential into power. It turns wishes into work. It turns confusion into clarity. When you decide who you are, what you stand for, and what you're going to do, your circumstances lose their grip on you. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. Stop believing that you need more support, more applause, more comfort before you start. Decide now that where you are is not where you will stay. Decide that your history is not your destiny. Decide that your struggle is not your identity. When you take ownership of your decisions, you take back control of your life. The moment you stop blaming and start building, everything changes. You don't need ideal conditions to make progress. You need powerful decisions. The future doesn't respond to feelings. It responds to choices. What you do consistently will always outweigh what you feel occasionally. So make the decision every day to keep moving forward, no matter how loud your circumstances scream otherwise. Most people see obstacles as detours, as barriers meant to delay or derail them from reaching their goals. They interpret resistance as rejection, hardship as punishment, and setbacks as signals to stop. But this mindset is the very reason so many dreams never reach fulfillment. The truth is, every obstacle carries within it a seed of opportunity, a lesson that cannot be learned in comfort, a strength that cannot be discovered in ease. The difference between those who rise and those who remain lies in their interpretation of adversity. While one person sees a closed door and turns back, another sees the same door and decides to build a new entrance. That mindset, to extract value from difficulty, is what separates creators from complainers, builders from blamers. Obstacles were never meant to stop you. They were meant to shape you. Life's resistance exists to reveal what lies dormant inside you. Muscles grow under tension. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is refined by fire. Likewise, the human spirit is tested, proven, and elevated through struggle. What you're going through is not meant to break you. It's meant to build something in you that ease never could. Every struggle you face contains a hidden workshop where perseverance is hammered, vision is sharpened, patience is tempered, and character is forged. The most powerful tools you'll carry into the future are not found in convenience. They are developed in adversity. When faced with difficulty, many retreat because they misunderstand the process. They believe success should be smooth, that progress should be predictable, that pain is a sign to pause. But nothing worthwhile is ever birthed without pain. The obstacle is not the enemy. The obstacle is the invitation. It calls you to grow, to innovate, to rise, to find another way. Most people wait for the path to clear. But creators do not wait, they carve paths through chaos. They use the debris of their problems as the raw material to build solutions. They understand that the obstacle is not in the way. It is the way. Every person who has ever accomplished something significant has encountered resistance. The difference is, they saw it as part of the journey, not the end of it. They didn't just survive their obstacles. They studied them, learned from them, and allowed those lessons to refine their focus. When something blocks their path, they don't collapse, they adapt. They don't see the wall and turn around, they see it as an opportunity to build a ladder. They don't quit when doors close, they create new ones. This mindset transforms every opposition into opportunity, every delay into development, every failure into foundation. The moment you stop seeing your obstacle as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, everything begins to shift. Suddenly, you stop asking why me and start asking what's this teaching me? Instead of running from the fire, you walk into it knowing you'll come out stronger. Instead of feeling defeated by the challenge, you realize you've been chosen by it. Life doesn't give battles to the weak. It gives battles to those with hidden strength, waiting to be revealed through struggle. The bigger the obstacle, the greater the opportunity to grow. But growth is always a choice. The decision to lean in when most lean out is what produces greatness. Obstacles force you to develop qualities that convenience hides. When things are easy, you coast. But when you're challenged, you must dig deeper. You must find courage when fear is loud. You must develop discipline when motivation disappears. You must stretch your thinking, expand your limits, and press forward even when progress is invisible. These qualities are not born out of victory. They are born in the shadows, in the silence, in the moments when nothing seems to be working, but you keep showing up anyway. Every obstacle you face is shaping a version of you that you will need for the next level. Without the test, there is no testimony. Without the weight, there is no strength. Some people become bitter in adversity. Others become better. The deciding factor is whether they embrace the struggle or resist it. When you fight the process, you prolong the pain. But when you lean into it, you accelerate your development. You discover abilities you didn't know you had. You unlock levels of focus, resilience, and innovation that were asleep inside you. You find out what you're really made of. The obstacle becomes your training ground. It becomes your proving ground. And eventually, it becomes your platform. Obstacles also reveal what truly matters. When everything is stripped away and you're forced to confront the core of your vision, you either quit or you recommit. Many start the journey for shallow reasons, status, applause, comfort. But when hardship hits, those motives dissolve. Only those with deep conviction continue. Obstacles purify intention. They expose whether your pursuit is driven by ego or purpose. If your why isn't strong enough, your obstacle will bury you. But if your why burns deep, your obstacle will refine you. You will rise, not in spite of it, but because of it. There's also an unseen advantage hidden in adversity. It makes you relatable. People are drawn to those who have struggled and overcome. They trust the voice of someone who's bled, fought, and failed, but kept going. Your obstacle, when conquered, becomes someone else's roadmap. Your scars become a source of healing. Your pain becomes a message. The workshop of adversity is not just for your own growth. It equips you to serve others. The very thing that tried to break you becomes the very thing that builds bridges to those who are still breaking. But that power is only unlocked when you decide to rise through it. The greatest opportunities often don't look like opportunities. They look like problems. They look like rejection letters, closed doors, empty accounts, delayed dreams. But hidden behind them is a chance to evolve, a chance to think differently, a chance to build something new. Obstacles have a way of stripping away distractions, forcing focus, and awakening urgency. They shake you out of your comfort and into your calling. They force you to choose, will you retreat or will you rebuild? Those who rise are not the ones who had the easiest journey. They are the ones who turned their hardest seasons into harvest. It's one thing to have a dream. It's another thing entirely to bring that dream to life. The world is filled with dreamers, people who talk about what they want to achieve, who write down goals, who visualize their future, who speak affirmations daily. But far fewer are the doers, the ones who take the step, who commit to the process, who embrace the discipline and pain required to translate vision into reality. A vision, no matter how powerful, is empty without movement. The gap between what you see and what exists is only bridged by action. Without it, vision is just imagination pretending to be progress. There is a dangerous comfort in the world of vision without responsibility. People cling to the idea of someday, believing that just because they've imagined greatness, it will somehow unfold on its own. They confuse belief with motion. They think that having a clear picture of their desired future is the same as working toward it. But clarity without commitment is deception. The hardest truth for many to accept is that a dream without execution is simply a fantasy dressed in ambition. You can spend years talking about a future that never arrives because the work to build it was never done. Vision is the seed, but action is the water. Without consistent watering, the seed withers. You can speak to the ground every day, but unless you till it, sow into it, and water it, nothing will grow. That's how vision works. It demands your sweat. It demands that you show up when it's inconvenient. It demands sacrifice, consistency, and pain. People who change the world are not just those who dream big. They are those who act relentlessly. They take the smallest available step and do it without waiting for applause. They work in silence, unseen and uncelebrated, because they understand that the process matters more than the perception. There is a myth that says you have to be ready before you begin. But waiting to be ready is another form of fear. No one is ever completely ready. You grow into readiness by acting in faith. You get better by beginning, not by waiting for perfection. Vision often reveals what could be, but it is action that defines what will be. People who live in perpetual preparation never get to purpose. They rehearse the plan in their mind, write the goals in their notebooks, but never take the leap. And year after year, they wonder why nothing has changed. The answer is always the same: they never started. They mistook thinking for building, planning for progress, dreaming for doing. The weight of your vision will crush you if you're unwilling to carry the responsibility of execution. Great ideas are heavy. They come with a burden: the burden of discipline, the burden of persistence, the burden of isolation, the burden of failing publicly and continuing privately. That's the part most people don't see. Everyone wants the results of vision, but few are willing to embrace the requirements of vision. The early mornings, the late nights, the rejections, the setbacks, the criticism, the doubt, these are not obstacles to the vision. They are the tools that shape it. If you're not willing to go through the fire, you're not ready to hold the crown. The ones who transform industries, shift cultures, and redefine standards are not those who wait for the right time. They create the right time through action. They understand that the clock doesn't wait. Every day you hesitate, your vision dims a little. Every excuse chips away at its potential. Every delay steals from your destiny. You cannot outsource your grind. You cannot delegate your development. The work is yours, the pressure is yours, and when you own that fully, you stop looking for shortcuts and start building the road yourself. Action is not just motion. It is informed motion. It is choosing the hard path again and again because your vision demands nothing less. It is doing the boring things consistently, mastering the fundamentals, committing to the process even when progress feels invisible. Too many people quit not because their vision failed, but because they stopped acting on it when it didn't yield immediate results. But the truth is, nothing extraordinary happens without a delay between effort and evidence. The invisible phase is where most give up. They believe silence means absence, but it's in the silence that the roots grow deep. It's in the obscurity that strength is forged. The greatest transformations happen underground, unseen, and uncelebrated. Vision is a mirror of what is possible, but it is action that changes what is. The distance between a dreamer and a doer is not talent, intelligence, or resources. It's motion. It's the decision to move forward even when you don't have all the answers. It's the willingness to look foolish, to fail forward, to keep showing up without recognition. There is a certain type of strength that comes only when you stop caring about how you look and start focusing on what you're building. Builders don't talk about blueprints forever. They start pouring the foundation with whatever materials are available, trusting that more will come as they go. There is also a discipline required to keep acting on vision when the novelty wears off. In the beginning, vision feels exciting. It inspires passion. It ignites hope. But passion fades, emotion fades, and when it does, only discipline can keep the vision alive. Discipline is the decision to keep doing what you said you'd do, long after the emotion that inspired it has left. The builders, the creators, the leaders, they are not driven by how they feel in the moment. They are driven by the promise of the future they've seen, and they are willing to pay the price for it. If your vision means anything to you, you will act on it even when it hurts, even when it costs you comfort, even when no one understands it. The vision you hold was not given to everyone. It was given to you because you have the capacity to carry it. But capacity without commitment is waste. If you don't act on what you see, someone else will eventually build what you ignored. The world is filled with people walking around living in the dreams that someone else was too afraid to build. Your vision is your responsibility, and that responsibility demands relentless action. Every masterpiece began with messy action. Every breakthrough was born from the decision to move forward despite uncertainty. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to begin. The difference between those who create and those who complain is motion. The gap between dreams and reality is not time, it's execution. The question is never whether the vision is possible. The question is whether you will move, whether you will keep moving when it's hard, when it's quiet, when it's lonely, when it doesn't look like it's working. That's where greatness is born. That's where visions live or die. That's where the ordinary becomes unstoppable. You were never meant to wait for life to hand you a chance. You were born to create the chance. The world does not shift for the passive, nor does it respond to the dreamers who never move. It honors those who take bold action in the face of uncertainty, who choose purpose over comfort, who rise above circumstances with the strength of their decisions. You must become the kind of person who doesn't wait for perfect conditions to begin but builds in the storm, who doesn't fear the obstacle but uses it as a training ground, who doesn't just see the vision but brings it to life through daily, disciplined execution. This life rewards the creator, not the consumer, the one who rises not with excuses, but with relentless resolve. Opportunity isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you forge from within.